possible to diagnose your alternator or any weakness in the alternator using just a voltmeter. So here's how to test your alternator. Take your voltmeter and set it on DCV12. Take a battery reading with the engine off. It should be around 12.3 or more, preferably 12.5. A really good battery might read up to 13. Next, start the engine of your car and take a reading with no accessories. Take a reading at idle and then take a reading at approximately 1000 RPM. Now, if your readings seem really strange and you're wondering if you have a bad battery or not, if you disconnect the negative cable on the alternator, you can take a reading of just the alternator, but I don't recommend this on any car that has complex electrical systems. I would only do this in something like a 300D or a 280 SE 4.5 or something like that. And before hooking the battery up, you may want to shut the engine off. Actually, you should shut the engine off to make sure that you don't burn anything up. So it's okay to disconnect the battery. It's just reconnecting it with the engine running is a bad idea. Now, the next problem that people run into is what speed should I test at? It's always best to test with no load and with full load at around 1000 RPM. So with no load, you should get over 13. With full load, you should get like 11.9, 12, 12.2, 12.3, 12.5. I find average is about 12.5 at 1000 RPM with the full accessory load. This means that your alternator is doing its job. Now you can go on Amazon and buy a cheap amp meter if you need to, but most of the time you could go to Harbor Freight and pick up a voltmeter for $12, which allows you to test a multitude of things, including whether your alternator is actually producing anything or not. Now finally, I'm going to tell you which alternators how much amperage each alternator has so that you have a rough idea of how powerful that alternator should be. Most early 6-cylinder cars had only 35 amps, but all the V8 cars, the 300 SEL 6.3, 3.5, and 4.5 had 55 amp AL72X Bosch alternators. Later on, the 240D, the 300D, the 300D Turbo all had 55 amp alternators until 1985, when the 300 SD was upgraded to a 65 amp unit. The 65 amp unit can be retrofitted though to any 240D or any 300D Turbo, and that is an AL117X. Later on, the 300E and the 300D 2.5, 350 SD, 300 SDL all came with 65 amp alternators, while the V8 cars came with 80 amp alternators. The 300 SE 126 came with an 80 amp alternator. And of course the 190Es all came with 55 amp alternators until I think it was the early 90s, and they were upgraded to 65 amp alternators with this funny internal regulator. Anyway, if you have any questions on how to check your amperage, drop us a line and I'll be glad to point you in the right direction. But remember, 13 is the magic number. If you can get to 13, then your alternator's doing good. Enjoy driving your Mercedes Benz. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. And if you have any questions, again, drop us a line. And remember, checking your own voltage is one way to avoid a major repair. So even if you don't think it's within your ability, you just touch the 2 pins of the voltmeter to your battery terminal heads, and you get a reading, and then you get to know the mystery is absolved. Take care and enjoy working on your Mercedes.